so many like coffee lovers that they are just there for the quality and like, they just want to see the numbers, no Quakers or, we we have these kind of like people in our industry, right? They're like the perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you just climb up your way in the coffee industry, you always want the best. You want best.
Right.
You want to cup the best coffee. You
You're
want to have the best coffee. But when you go and explore the rest of the supply chain, when you go to farm and when you see the struggle and the efforts and the hard work that they are putting through, then you realize like to produce that high quality coffee, it's crazy. It's really difficult.
It's a luxury. Let's be honest. Cheap, watered down drinks aren't cutting it anymore. Raw Beverage Trading partners with venues that want to win. We develop bold, consistent, damn good products made with real ingredients because your customers can taste the difference. Matcha, we're on it. Cold brew, best in class. We're not here to chase pennies. We're here to build brands, loyalty, and bottom line profits. Stop letting cost controllers call the shots. Raw is where margin meets meaning. If you're looking for a partner, not just a supplier, contact sales@rawcoffee.ae or check the show notes for details. Welcome to the Map Forward Middle East podcast, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and joining me for episode 2 of this 5-part series is Reza Kosar from Iran, but is the co-founder and managing director of Slick Coffee Co. in Oman. And we are talking about what is quality in the coffee industry. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how do we define quality. This is a question that I have asked a number of guests in recent series, pretty much ever since the mess that happened with the CVA. And what I'm trying to understand in the industry, Reza, is who gets to define what quality is, who gets to set those standards, and who gets to tell us that we're wrong. And there seems to be this thing going around in the industry where people are saying, no, but sensory science says that this is what is right about coffee. And you and I talked about this in the preliminary conversation. And you were like, but I don't know if you're right, Lee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's go. So how do we define quality?
Well, it's really fascinating. Like I have this obsession with words and like the use of words and their meanings because
Hold on. Wait. Guys, like I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast. This is a man with degrees in linguistics, right?
Right.
Like this is a very high overachiever here. Do not in any way, shape or form think that this is some guy who kind of like accidentally got into coffee and he didn't have anything else to do and so that's why he's here. Not even slightly close to that. This is a guy who's very considered in coffee. And I should have said that at the top of this conversation. He could have done very many other things in life. And coffee is a thing that he's chosen. He has a deep love of words and a passion for expressing himself. So I'm sorry, I should have said that at the beginning.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Reza.
That's very kind of you. Well, so it was always with me. So it's I just try to look at things different angles and perspectives to see like, because it can go over our heads without even noticing it. So it's when something that, when we are talking about quality, like first thing comes to mind is probably the goodness of something. And we use it in casually in everyday life and we sort of understand each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier said than defined actually. So the reason could be the different meanings and connotations the word has. Either we're talking about the degree of excellence or an inherent property of something. And I think this is where the confusion stems from. So, but however, in reality, quality is not what it is. It's what it's for. So bear with me. Let's take a look at it from different perspectives. So we have like in the scientific perspective, quality is defined as the degree to which a product or a process meets predefined specifications or standards. So here we're talking about the empirical data, repeatability, consistency, control, and free from defect, especially in like manufacturing side. In sensory science, it means reproducible sensory profiles, right, under controlled conditions. For that, we have QA and QC. So this is a very hard science part in terms of like empirical data and all these.
That's hard science?
It's not.
So consistency, just being able to reproduce it within exact same parameters, that's what we're saying is quality. That I'm not being confrontational. I'm asking
from the scientific perspective, yes.
Okay.
So that's
not a measurement of how we define quality, right?
Right. So this is how it's defined in the sensory and science and scientific world. It's just like yes or no. That is just like that.
Right.
So, and then it goes with the philosophical perspective, which is a bit deeper and more human focused. So we have that these qualities exist in the relationship between the object and the perceiver. So in coffee, quality is neither fully objective nor subjective. It lives in the interaction between the drinker and the coffee, right? So it should kind of like answer where we are mostly, what we are talking about. And then it goes the psychological perspective of how we define quality, which is like it feels good, it's the satisfaction, is the fulfilled expectations, personal preferences, memory, cognitive bias, emotions, context, all that, right? Like we have this confirmation bias, placebo effect, all this like that kind of like influence and how much pleasure a product provides. And so in coffee, we have like the same coffee may taste better if someone knows who the farmer is, or if it's from a producer farmer, or if you're in a context of Cup of Excellence, for example, and you already know all those coffees are Cup of Excellence, are high scoring, excellent coffees. So these are the things that also in the sensory science we try to avoid as psychological errors and factors that are going to influence people, and we have to be aware of, right, and practice to be like mindful and also like try to avoid it. But this is something very difficult for human beings because we bring ourselves, right? So with a lot of like cultural backgrounds and just everything that genetically everything is going to be something very, very unique to each individual. So but for most consumers here, perceived quality often matters more than the actual sensory complexity. So for graders and traders, it's less on this side of this emotional part and psychological part because we trained to try to mitigate all these like noises coming through, right? But for consumers, it's all about that experience. It's all about the perceived quality. So yeah, it's complicated. While we talked about it, like taste is subjective, but quality may not necessarily be.
I struggle with that statement, and I hate that I struggle with it because I always come back to the question of what is a good coffee. And the moment you become a lifetime coffee professional, you come to realize that your relationship with that question is frustrating. Because every time you drink a coffee, your perception of what is a good coffee is challenged. Every time you taste something from a different roaster, or a different origin, or a coffee that's a new varietal, whatever it is, you're constantly being challenged with what is good coffee. And then you'll meet somebody who doesn't like the coffee that you like.
Right.
And you think, I'm a trained sensory expert. How can you like Lavazza coffee? How can you tell me how can you argue with me about the fact that the Lavazza coffee that you're drinking is better than this, really beautiful, gorgeous geisha and you're telling me you can't drink it. And that unto itself is a very interesting paradigm, right? Especially when we're looking at that, who the final decider of quality is the consumer. After all, this is a capitalistic endeavor. The reason we're trying to find specific qualities of coffee, whether it is going to be commercial coffee, high-end specialty coffee, whatever, it's so that we can sell it and so that we can move it along.
Right.
The part that I struggle with about this is who gets to decide what quality is?
This is really difficult because, as you said, this is very true. Like a very high scoring coffee may disappoint your typical consumer, customer.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And it happened to us. There are some coffees that score really high on the table, but you cannot really find that fit for it when it comes to the usage that you want, or you had in mind that this is going to work well in filter or espresso or whatever, or in the context of even competitions. But who gets to define quality? After all, I think it's really complicated, because I think everyone has a say in this. So for us, the way I see it is okay, we built all these frameworks to try to make it repeatable and consistent, and what we really have is this trained subjectivity, as I said. So as we try so hard on this part of it to define it, to quantify it, to categorize it into different stratification systems and qualities, at the end it comes to get consumed, and that's what people are paying for, right? But when you look at it from a little bit, you zoom out and you look at the whole supply chain, everyone is involved in defining that, and everyone has an impact in that. But if your kind of point is that, and a fair point to mention, if it should be from the producing side of the supply chain should define it, or the consumer, is that what you are thinking about?
It's part of it, yeah, and I think it's valid, right?
It is.
It's
so what comes to my mind when I think about that, it's as you said, the truth about the world we live in. As long as the producing countries and producers are struggling with their fundamental issues in life, in life in general, they don't have time to, they don't have that motive to basically define quality, to be, how to put it.
What do you mean? So you don't think that is what you're saying, that while they're struggling with just the general running the business and life is really challenging altogether, quality is not a part of the conversation for them. They're just trying to grow coffee and sell it.
Pretty much, because I mean,
Okay.
they're too busy, to define anything, and that's basically what the system wants. And this is, you can see it
Right.
in any other part of the society. It's not only
Yeah.
for coffee. So as long as you are busy with the at the bottom of the pyramid of like Maslow, right? You don't get to the to choose what quality. Quality is luxury for most people. It's just like if you have an option to choose between what type of quality you want, if you have that privilege to choose, this is luxury, right? This is privilege. And for most
Just
producers,
as a note there, if that's okay. Sorry, you mentioned something there, Maslow. For those who don't know what we're talking about, please go and Google Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it will make sense to you. It's the order of things that you need to fulfill your happiness. I apologize, but people will have lost context there. Go ahead.
no worries. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Can I push back on you a little bit there? Because you say something there that I think we can't gloss over. You say that the system wants that to happen. What do you mean by that?
Well, this is how it's designed, isn't it? we are all
This
part
is
of it.
colonialism.
This is something
This
that
is
we are all
colonialism.
part of it, and we are playing along. So this is really helpful and healthy to have these conversations without any bias or anything. We are just like trying to be realistic, not to
Right. We're
sugarcoat
exploring.
everything, and we are exploring exactly. So because this is probably going to probably, I don't know, disappoint so many coffee lovers that they are just there for the quality and they just want to see the numbers, no Quakers, or we this is we have these kind of people in our industry, right? They're like the perfection. I was one of them. So when you just climb up your way in the coffee industry, you always want the best. You want best.
Right.
You want to cup the best coffee. You want to have the best coffee. But when you go and explore the rest of the supply chain, when you go to farm and when you see the struggle and the efforts and the hard work that they're putting through, then you realize to produce that high quality coffee, it's crazy. It's really difficult.
It's a luxury.
It's really if you want to have that, I don't know, top 1% of that coffee that everyone is trying to buy on an auction, that's something that is really difficult to get.
Huge investment of money. Huge investment. It begs the question, and again, a new thought. How can we talk about quality and say that something is quality if we disconnect that from the struggles that are happening at origin? If the people who are growing it cannot feed themselves and cannot afford, and there are people out there that are going to be listening to this and saying, oh, here we go again, get over it. We're talking about commodities. These people are more than welcome to go and do something else if they don't want to participate in this. They're close to considering that, folks. Like the coffee industry at the beginning, the producers, the farmers, they are getting to a point where they're not quite seeing the value in growing this thing anymore. Because we're not, I see it, Reza, as a parasitic relationship. The parasite keeps the host just alive enough so that it keeps doing the thing that it needs it to do. But it takes everything else other than that.
Yeah.
And I feel like coffee farmers have figured out that that's the relationship that we're in, except for the really big ones, the very big commercial farmers. They're going to have other kinds of problems. But can we really say, and this is the part that really annoys me about our industry, we are focusing at defining quality by what's in the cup. And we are disconnecting that from the rest of the supply chain. We are disconnecting that from where it's come from and how it's being grown. Help me understand why that's the wrong way to look at quality in our industry.
You mean just to look at the form?
No, like what I mean is people, when I say we should be looking at, when we're having a conversation about quality, we shouldn't just be having that conversation about what's in the cup.
Right.
We shouldn't be defining a cup of quality just based on the blueberries and the cinnamon that we taste in the cup. And somehow when I make that suggestion, people look at me like I'm a weirdo for suggesting that, as though it's impossible to. That's not the point, Lee. The point is we score the coffee, we decide what the flavor profile is, we decide what the level of quality in the cup is, and then we can find buyers for it. To me, that doesn't feel like it's the full assessment of what quality is. But why am I wrong about that? Why does the quality
you're not
side
wrong.
of the industry
This
look
is
at that and see that that's the wrong way to look at it? Okay.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think for most of us, we want to stick to those definitions and the very strict, rigid point of view that of perfectionist, right? So if I'm not talking about here about the let's say, for example, defects or any problems that coffee might have. That's why we have also forms to explore that and also to mitigate any problem. At the farm level, also again, it's going to be helpful to the crop and also the producer to know what the problem is, right? We're not talking about that. That's really objectionable. We can talk about defects. But when it comes to narrowing down coffee only to score or flavor profile, for me personally, it didn't work like this. To me, coffee is not about flavor, or there are many other attributes in coffee that are really overlooked, but very important about coffee. Like, for example, mouthfeel, acidity, cleanliness, all those. It's not about only flavor or score, because the time you start to think that way, you completely forget that this is linked to someone's crop and someone's life. Right? This is someone's product that you are going to evaluate. So this is again the same problem like most of the producers have, that people are going to
100%.
score their coffee without even giving them feedbacks, and those are the people who are not going to even buy that coffee. So they are defining quality for them. While what they do is just to produce that coffee. So again, when it comes to at least what I try to do and try to keep in mind is that I am not only dealing with a commodity or a product. That's how you build those relationships, and you take it from there, right? Like so many of the pioneers in our industry who created those relationship coffees, they're not dealing with the coffee. They are buying the coffee no matter what. Yeah,
Yeah,
this year
100%.
you did an 86. Okay, next year it's going to be like 84. That's not how they say it. They see more than that. They see like beyond that, right? And this is a very good role model to have in mind. Also, like I mentioned about the scores, what really like bugs me is that nowadays everyone's talking about scores and all. Back in the day, really, earlier in my career, it was difficult to get something that was scoring like 84, 86. And when you got to cop that, it was just like, wow. But nowadays, everyone's on the consumer side, or even like coffee geeks, they just want all the 90 plus. And nothing is going to satisfy them that are like below 88 or 87. It's a boring coffee to them. But if only they know like how difficult it is to get to the point to even produce a solid 86 coffee, 84 coffee.
I wonder how many of them have been to Origin.
Yeah, that's another question. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This conversation did not disappoint. Actually, I have a question for you before we wrap this up. What does a good quality coffee taste like to you?
The way I see very good coffee, good quality coffee to me, technically, if the coffee is
technically
clean, sweet, and uniform. To me, these are the three pillars, and the rest are ornaments that I can choose different. Like, for example, at Slick, we have 7 different profiles that we can, just classify our coffees to, depending on how they represent themselves in the cup. But the main important thing to me for coffee to be like in any grade, so because we are doing the stratification, the different scorings, it should be clean, uniform, and sweet, based on the ripeness and all. Technically, but also like what I consider is what I mentioned about like having those relationship coffees over the time. For now, I'm too small to buy like huge container from Origin, especially like with the current situation we have in the industry with the prices and all. But if we get the chance to buy anything direct, we do that. Right.
Yeah, nice.
So, and also this is very important for people to be really like transparent with these things, because these are, again, one of those like buzzwords and catch frames that people use that we do direct trade. And while we know that this is not true in many cases, and using like specialty coffee without knowing the notion. And I think that's for another thing to talk about. But in my opinion, we need multiple quality systems, not just one. So we need one for producers, one for roasters, one for consumers. We cannot really fit everyone for one.
That.
So that's why if we come up with a system that everyone agrees and try to like practice, it's going to have like a triangle of this relationship, and then everyone has their own terms and definitions of quality, and then that can be the common language that people talk.
Okay, there is something that I want to say there, but I'm going to leave it for a future episode. Okay, so in the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about coffee competitions. You don't want to miss this. Peace up on peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.